My name is Emily, and I never expected that something as simple as giving a set of house keys could lead to this. It was supposed to be our family's dream home, a fresh start after years of small conflicts, awkward silences, and silent disappointments. But one conversation turned everything upside down. "You know," my husband Mike began one evening, "I think we should give the master keys to my parents. You know, so they can come and go whenever they like." He said it so casually, as if he was suggesting we buy a new couch, not essentially inviting his overbearing mother into our lives once again. "What?" I asked, not quite believing him. "Why would we do that? This is our space." "Well," he shrugged, "it just feels right. They've been so supportive, and it'd make my mom feel more involved. After all, we're all family." That was the last straw. After 10 years of marriage, I'd tolerated enough intrusions from my mother-in-law. In the early days, I'd tried to set boundaries with her. When our son, Kevin, was born, I hoped Mike would understand that we needed time to adjust and find our rhythm as new parents. But he'd immediately called his mother for support without even asking me. From that moment on, my mother-in-law began to control every aspect of our lives. She had her own ideas about how things should be done and dismissed mine without a second thought. Parenting, household tasks, even how I managed my career as a remote worker, all were subject to her scrutiny and constant condescending advice. And if I dared to object, Mike always took her side. I made my choice quickly, knowing it would surprise him. "If you can't accept it," he continued, "then maybe we should consider a divorce." He said it almost like a challenge, as if he didn't believe I'd ever walk away. "All right then," I replied softly. Mike's face relaxed, a satisfied smile spreading across his face, thinking I'd given in to his request. But my agreement wasn't about the keys. No, I was agreeing to the divorce. As the days went by, I secretly packed my things and arranged to move into a new place. I'd been saving enough to secure a home of my own. Just before the move-in day, I had everything transferred to my parents' place, leaving only Mike's belongings behind. The following week, Mike came home to find an empty house, the silence thick and heavy. It wasn't long before he called me, frantic. "Emily, where are all your things? Kevin's stuff is gone too." "That's because we've moved," I replied calmly. "You asked for a divorce, remember?" Stunned silence fell on the other end of the line. Then, as expected, he began trying to talk me out of it, pleading and bargaining. But I knew there was no turning back. A few hours later, Mike showed up with his mother. I could hear them outside, struggling with the door. I'd changed the locks. When I opened it just a crack, my mother-in-law's face flushed red. "Why can't we get in? This is our family home." "Actually," I replied, "I bought this house with my own savings. The deed's in my name. I can decide who enters and who doesn't." Mike looked utterly defeated. He'd always counted on his mother's support, but he'd never realized how much he'd relied on her approval over our needs as a couple. I watched as reality finally set in for both of them. My mother-in-law, usually so proud, shrank back in disbelief, her confidence crumbling. I closed the door, leaving them outside, and began to settle into my new life with Kevin. At last, I could focus on my work and enjoy quality time with my son without the constant interference. It felt liberating, like I'd finally taken control of my life. For the next few months, we lived in peace. Mike's occasional calls and messages turned from pleading to bitter, but I stayed firm. I didn't have to argue anymore. I had my space and my independence. But it wasn't long before I began hearing whispers from old friends who'd kept in touch with him. Apparently, Mike had moved in with his mother after our split, and things hadn't gone as smoothly as he'd hoped. My mother-in-law's temper, once directed at me, now found a new target in him. One day, I received a call from an old friend. someone I hadn't spoken to in a while. She hesitated, then said, "Emily, I don't know if you've heard, but Mike and his mother, well, they've been having some troubles. Seems they're not getting along." It didn't surprise me. His mother, so used to controlling everything, now found herself in charge of his life in a way she hadn't anticipated. From what I heard, her insistence on managing even the smallest details of his day-to-day existence was finally taking a toll on Mike. Not long after, another rumor reached me. Mike had been staying in a small apartment in a less affluent area, barely scraping by with his mother. Their family's fortune had taken a turn, leaving them in a financially precarious situation. The irony wasn't lost on me. I couldn't help but feel a sense of justice in their misfortune. One evening, as I was tucking Kevin into bed, I received another call. It was Mike. I nearly didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. "Emily," he began, his voice hollow. I need help." "Help?" I asked, unsure of where this was going. I couldn't imagine what he could want from me now. He paused, then confessed, "I made a mistake. I should have listened to you. My mother. She's not what I thought. She's..." His voice trailed off. I took a deep breath, feeling a mix of pity and satisfaction. I'd given him countless chances to put our family's needs above his mother's, but he'd never understood. He'd allowed her interference to dismantle our relationship piece by piece. "Emily, could we start over? For Kevin?" he asked, desperation creeping into his tone. "Mike," I replied slowly, "this isn't just about Kevin. You made choices, and so did I. And I chose peace, for me and for our son. I didn't need to spell it out for him. He knew, deep down, that we could never go back." After that call, I felt a sense of closure. I no longer looked back on those years with anger or resentment. Instead, I saw them as a stepping stone, a lesson that had taught me the strength I needed to protect myself and my son. As time passed, I thrived in my career, finding new opportunities that allowed me to provide a stable, happy life for Kevin. He grew up without the tension that had once filled our home, without the pressure to conform to anyone's expectations. I had broken free, and he was growing up seeing the importance of setting boundaries and respecting oneself. And then one day I received a letter. It was from Mike, a simple note of apology and an acknowledgement of everything he had done, or failed to do. He didn't ask for forgiveness, and he didn't expect a reply. He simply wrote, "Thank you for showing me what love truly looks like, even if I was too blind to see it at the time." I tucked the letter away, knowing it marked the final chapter in a story I had long since left behind. With it, I closed that door forever, grateful for the peace and freedom I'd fought so hard to achieve.